Let's talk a little bit about the types of numbers that you can have. Now, not all numbers are created equal, pardon the pun. In the code that you're looking at here, I have a variable of a type integer and one of type salary. I'm setting age equal 39, and I'm just typing out on line number 10, system out print line. Actually not typing it, just writing out the system out. Now I run that program, everything runs fine, right? But watch this. If I change age to 39.5 and try to run the program, there's going to be something unexpected. And the reason is there's different kinds of numbers. You have numbers that don't have decimals and numbers that do have decimals. Now the numbers that don't have decimals are called integers, which we see here on line 5. So on line 8, when we're saying age is equal to 39.5, that's a problem because integers don't have decimals on them. So if we wanted to use a decimal, we couldn't use an integer. So we could either do two things. We could fix age by saying, you know what, I'm really 39, and that might fix it. Or we might have to use a different type of number called a float. So I have here on line 6 float salary. Now floats are a kind of number that have decimals on them. There's others as well, but we're going to start with a float. So on line 9, I'm going to type in salary equals $25,000 and put a semicolon, and I'll write that out to the command line. So on line 12, I'm just going to copy line 11 and just do something simple and write it out to the command line. Now you're going to see something a little bit strange here, or maybe not strange, but certainly possibly unexpected. So on line 12, I'm just going to put in salary equals, and then I'm just going to copy and paste salary in to replace age here on line 12. So I'm almost done. Looks good to me. Let me click execute, and it'll work fine. I mean, we got age equals 39 because we fixed it, and salary equals 25,000.0. But look at the salary that we put in on line 9. We didn't put the 0.0. That's because Java assumes that the number that we're giving it assumes that decimal point on it. So you're going to learn when you're starting out with languages that using numbers can drive you crazy. You need to know all these little idiosyncrasies, and you're learning about some of them now. So if I type in, for example, salary equals $25,050 or $25,000.50, I still get the problem. What this is telling me here is Java is telling me I don't know what kind of number salary is. Is it a float or is it a double? A double we haven't covered in this video, but it's another kind of decimal. So I got to click execute after putting an F in back of it. F stands for float. Line 9 now with the F in back of it is just saying, hey Java, this number, $25,050, is a float. So you put the F on the back of it. So now we go to compile. You're going to learn that when using numbers in any programming language is you're going to have to learn the types of numbers and what their ranges are and the kinds of values they can hold. It sounds daunting, but it's something you kind of learn as you go. It's not something you memorize. It's not like, you're going to spend the weekend memorizing all of them. You're going to kind of run into these things. And when you run into them, you just have to know that you might have to play with a number a little bit just so it's of the same data type that the language expects. And in this video here, I'm just doing just simple types such as age, which is an integer. And then I'm just adding 3 floats now. The salary, the raise, and the new salary, So let me work with floats here a little bit. On line 12, I'm just going to put in something like the new salary. Actually, let me put in a raise percent. Yeah, on line 12, I'm kind of talking in circles here. On line 12, I'll put in the percent of the raise. Like, for example, if we are expecting to get a 4.5% raise, that's what the raise percent would be. So let me put in on line 12, or just after line 12, I'll put in, how about new salary equals, salary times raise. I intentionally have one little bug in here. I want you to think about that while I'm typing this in. look at line 12. Line 12 has a bug in it. But on line 13, let me just put in new salary equals to, and we'll specify the raise times the salary. And give me a second, I'll type that in. Now, remember what we're doing here for line 13. Line 13 has to have on the left-hand side of the equal the same data types as on the right-hand side. So in this case, everything has to be a float. So now I'm just going to possibly copy and paste line 16, and I have salary, and then after salary, I'm going to put in the new salary or whatever, and I'll paste that in on line 17. So basically, line 15 is saying what my age is, line 16 the salary, line 17 the new salary. But I got a problem in here. Let me try to run this, and you're going to see an issue with line number 12, and I'll give you a hint. The compiler is going to look at line number 12 and not know what 1.045 is. And that's what this error is here. Incompatible lossy conversion. Again, pain in the butt. Go back to line 12 and say, okay, the left-hand side of the equal is a float. Therefore, the right-hand side of the equal on line 12 must be a float. So we have to specify that as such. And to do that, just like we did on line 11, is we just put the cursor on line 12 between the 5 and the semicolon, and we're just going to put an F, which stands for float. So what you have to do is when you're working with floats, doubles, integers, you have to know which ones are the whole numbers, which are integers, and which ones are decimals, like float and double. And as you work with these more often, it'll become more intuitive. But what I just did is I fixed line 12 by putting an F after the 4, 5, and before the semicolon. So now when I run the program, I should get something that looks like the following. Now, don't worry about that line break being missed. See how it says on the right-hand side, salary equals 25,000, and there's no line break there. That's just a bugaboo with coding run. Ignore that for now. That's just a minor inconvenience, annoyance. Don't worry about it. But look at what we did here. Let's take a step back and look at this code. Now, I did this really quickly because I, do this for a living, and I know how to handle numeric values in Java or in, many different languages. So I could look at this and I could say, for example, age has to be a whole number. It can't be a decimal. So if we want to use a decimal, we can't use an integer. We'd have to use, in this case, a float. Floats have decimals on them. There's also other data types as well that have decimals, but we'll stick with a float for now. So like on line 13, all I need to do is when I'm doing a computation or computing something, I have to make sure everything to the right of my equals, and this side salary and raise, the data types are equal to everything on the left. Now, when you run into problems, you're going to get that error conversion, and then you're going to have to figure it out. Now, it's more complex than this, but this should be enough to get you started working with different types of numbers and kind of looking at some of the error messages you're going to get and starting to learn how to debug them. You're not an expert yet, but you're well on your way. Thank you for listening to this video. I bid you all a very well rest of the day. Thank you.